the Australian social media ban. In compliance with Australia's social media minimum age law, Twitch will no longer allow Australian users under the age of 16 to have an account. Starting today, new users in Australia under the age of 16 will not be allowed to create a Twitch account. And existing Australian Twitch users under the age of 16 will have their accounts deactivated on January 9th, 2026. Oh my God. And yes, it's because Australia has launched the world's first social media ban for kids under 16.
It requires tech companies to take what they call reasonable steps to prevent kids from creating accounts, or else face up to $32 million in fines. How the tech companies will do this has...
Okay, here's the thing. My controversial opinion on this is I don't think this is to protect children. I think just like every other law that is tailored around protecting children, it's just not to protect children at all. It's absolutely to implement ID measures so that you have to put your ID. You have to put your ID on a database anytime you go on any website whatsoever. I think that's what's going on. I don't think this is actually to stop children from getting on the internet. I think it's more so, or social media. I think it's more so just to do ID verification so that anyone and everyone that wants to use any social media platform has their actual legitimate ID associated. It's a tool for mass surveillance. And most of these companies that do the age verification are going to be like Palantir. And they're going to do everything in their power to use this for evil. And yeah, I think bye-bye to anonymity on the internet. The thing is, like, I just got back from China. And this is how the Chinese net operates, right? Everything in China operates like this. Everything that you do online in China is directly associated with your actual ID. Everything is connected to your ID. The difference is it's not like a fun process to go through to begin with, but you just kind of play ball if you want to literally go to China. I will, however, say I do not trust the American government. I would go so far as to say I trust the American government less than I trust the Chinese government. I don't know if that's like a controversial opinion for any of you guys, but I've seen what the American government has been doing, okay? I do not believe, even for a brief moment, that this kind of mass surveillance will be used for good. You are spreading misinformation. Nothing involved with this has anything to do with providing your IDs. You don't have to put your ID unless you're identified as a child on the platform. So it has something to do with IDs. What about when you start a new account and it asks you what your age is? How will they know? And even if that's the case in the interim, to get you to be comfortable with this, if you think that it's not going to lead to IDs across the board, IDs having to be uploaded for usage of any website across the board, you are silly. Elon Musk shaped COSA. Meta is lobbying for ID verification. Thiel's age verification tech. Co stands to make billions. Progressives in all forms are about to be deplatformed and will have a level of mass surveillance akin to authoritarian states, and leftists are cheering it. Not only is ID uploads going to be an issue with data breaches, but also on top of that, do you trust this government to decide what's right and wrong? I don't. Maybe I'm crazy. Peter Thiel is like the Kash Patel of the tech world in terms of trustworthiness, dude. Anytime he's on camera, I'm like, that's not a human. That's a lizard. That's like a literal lizard. How has nobody realized that this is a lizard person wearing a human skin and not even doing a good job with it? Look at how much he's sweating. The human skin that he is wearing is not reacting positively to his lizard skin underneath the human skin. Yeah, the US government is literally talking about how they're going to monitor citizens for anti-capitalist, anti-American, and anti-Christian, anti-family value sentiment. Do we even have anonymity now? To a certain degree, you do. I don't. I could if I wanted to, if I started new accounts elsewhere. So I should be the first person to advocate for this. Every single anonymous account, instead of pulling them to the public square, I literally pull them to the public square, you know? Think about that. So I should be on board. This will make it much harder for cyber stalking initiatives to take place. All of a sudden, if you are trying to do all the troll ops that many people do, all of a sudden they're associated with their actual identity. Makes it much easier for federal law enforcement to tackle people who are engaging in death threats and whatnot. And I still, even though it would make my life a ton easier, I still don't trust the government. Yeah, make it much easier to press charges on people. All of a sudden, the things that you are doing on the internet, you're doing with your actual identity. If you agree that kids should not be on social media, what is your solution? I mean, I think a walled garden social media approach to children is probably a little bit better than whatever the this is. And even then, who gets to decide what is seen and what's not seen?
The platforms may ask to verify a user's age with their bank account, a government photo ID, or by using what's called age inference technology, which estimates a user's age based on their other online activity, tools that may also raise other privacy concerns. But supporters of the measure say the law will help protect young people from the negative developmental and mental effects of social media.
Things like unrealistic body image, for example, or exposure to bullying or predators online.
In Australia, Wayne Holsworth says his son died by suicide after a sextortion scam.
Anyone that says that this is not a good idea has not lived through my life.
As the ban went into effect, Australia's Prime Minister urging children to find other activities.
Start a new sport, learn a new instrument, or read that book that's been sitting there on your shelf.
But some teens are pushing back.
I think they should be removing.
That's crazy. Stop by reading a book. Crikey. Fucking hell. Read a fucking book, damn it. R&R. Are you bored?
Some critics also say the ban may push kids to join unregulated apps that take them to darker corners of the internet. Elon Musk, who owns X, previously slamming the law, saying it seems like a backdoor way to control access to the internet by all Australians. According to a national study commissioned by the Australian government, 96% of children ages 10 to 15 were using social media, and 7 out of 10 had been exposed to harmful content.
That shit's crazy too, though. I mean, I feel like this doesn't harm me at all. Let's be real. My audience is way past that point anyway. I'm just still thinking about it broadly as a bad thing. I feel like a strong regulatory control over implementing some sort of safeguard measure against teens on the internet and what they get up to on the internet is probably a better way to do this than just like, I don't know, forcing everybody to upload their ID to verify whether they're underage or not. I think forcing parents to have control over like any sort of limitation will automatically cut a big chunk of people from accessing these sorts of websites. You know what I mean? Maybe you could force the parents, like hold them accountable to ensure that they make sure that their children are not using like the adult internet. Of course, people will still find a way, but there's a reason for drinking ages, right? Do you understand? Like, because if there was no drinking age, then there would even be no necessity to find a way. So ultimately, it's not a bad thing. Good, you have yet to explain why this is bad. Social media is extremely bad for teens. Yes and no. I think social media is bad for teenagers, yes, especially the heavy consumption of it. But it's also pretty good for teenagers because it causes them to socialize with one another. I think it's the algorithm and the things that they see on social media that is bad, not the fact that they utilize some kind of social media. Yeah, it's kind of like with China and VPNs. It's not like the government is cracking down on VPNs. And if you know how to use a VPN, you're fine. And many people do, but not everyone. You know, it eliminates a decent chunk of people from using a decent chunk of people from accessing the rest of the internet because they just don't use VPNs. It's the security theater of the TSA. It's the fake camera that people place outside of their businesses. Like all of that completely stop crime from happening, for example, but it makes it more difficult for people to do crime. Sometimes a little fence that you put in front of these sorts of things actually cuts the problem in half.
Face masks that resemble adults, they're like a mesh face mask for adults, to be able to like use, you know, basically a selfie or whatever of that and use that to access the app. Some are saying maybe a VPN will work, so it would make your phone trick it into thinking that you're in a different country where there isn't the ban. Some are saying, can we just like request adults to help us out? Kind of like, hey, you set up an account for me. So they're all trying to get around it.
Kind of like kids would go to a liquor store and then try to get adults to buy. This is wild. Ripple effects here. Do you see this as like a domino? In that woman's interview, she described Australia as potentially being the first, and then everybody else might follow suit.
Yeah, I mean, we are somewhat seeing that, actually. Starting January 1st, Malaysia is going to implement a similar ban. New Zealand is discussing it right now. Denmark is far along in discussing this, and you heard the EU has also proposed a similar...
What the platforms excluded from the Australia social media ban is Discord and Roblox? Where do you think the radicalization happens? I mean, I'm not even touching LinkedIn because, like, no one should be on LinkedIn, let alone children or adults, honestly. But Roblox, that's the worst one. No, LinkedIn is great. What do you mean? Oh my God. Ew, gross. I don't even know what Lemonade is. Lemonade was a TikTok alternative when the ban was first announced. No one used it.
My biggest thing is that if somebody can go get a piercing, can go get a job, can go get their own Medicare card, can get a tax file number, can go take their driver's knowledge test before the age of 16, and they can do all of these things with the trust that they are responsible enough to handle it and advocate for themselves if it becomes too much. How can we then say they can't hold a social media account?
It's gonna be worse for like queer people and like people with like niche interests, I guess, because like that's the only way they can find their community. And
okay, my conspiracy theory is literally this is because of Israel. Like, it's not that like Israel is directly doing this, but governments in the Western world saw what it looks like when people have unrestricted access to the social media platforms at a young age, and how quickly their attitude shifted because it wasn't coming from like controlled institutions that were disseminating information in the right way, and they have no more narrative control capabilities. They were like, we have to do something about it. Everything is not Israel, you weirdo. Well, first of all, the TikTok ban was directly because of Israel. They said it, right? The TikTok sale was directly because of Israel, and they openly said it, so we don't even have to speculate on that front. Like, you agree with me on that, right? At least I'm just saying that my suspicion is that they're trying to sell this as like a good thing to protect children. And it's not just Israel. Like, Israel is the canary in the coal mine, if you will, because obviously their goals are to at least have some semblance of control over what kind of information people are seeing, especially at their most malleable, right? When they're young children. So Israel is more so a catalyst rather than the only reason. The actual reason is that they want to control the dissemination of information, especially when kids are young. And because of the impossible to ignore generational divide on this issue, I think it made it much easier for people in power to basically take action when they were probably fearful beforehand, fearful of the backlash. One way that you can tell these age verification laws are not about fighting against big tech is that big tech money stooge is promoting them. He didn't have a come to Jesus moment on this. These laws are censorious off-ramp that misconstrues the problem.
Australia is banning all TikTok, Instagram, and all social media from kids that are 16 and younger. I think it's time for America to pick up its game and do the same. Look, when it comes to our adolescents, it's either going to be adults or the algorithms. One of them is going to raise the kids. And I think we need to help parents. It's too much for a parent to push against Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the other social, Snapchat, all the other social medias. Our kids are way too vulnerable. It's too addictive, too alluring, that a parent should face off against these powerful companies that are trying to influence their children. Now, when it came to taking telephones out of classrooms, we've seen progress. When it came to restricting tobacco from our kids, we've seen progress. When it came to the designated driver, we've seen progress in protecting the safety and the development of our children. So today I'm calling for the United States to follow suit, come up with its own plan, but protect our children, help our parents, strengthen our families, and restrict all the social media when it comes to access to kids and adolescents 16 and younger.
Yeah, I mean, Hillary Clinton blamed TikTok on the...
Smart. She said, you know, when people were chanting from the river to the sea, she would ask the students what river, what sea. They didn't know. I had the same experience. A lot of the challenge is with younger people. More than 50% of young people in America get their news from social media. So just pause on that for a second. They are seeing short form videos, some of them totally made up, some of them not at all representing what they claim to be showing. And that's where they get their information.
Who's this person talking? Is she relevant? Nah, you don't have to worry about her. Oh, yeah. I don't know, man. I feel like this
some
sucks.
people also use it to like vent their feelings and like talk to people.
By banning social media for those under 16, we're giving children a childhood and parents more peace of mind.
It's just kind of like pointless. Like, it's just like we're just gonna create like new ways to get on these platforms. So, like, what's the point, you know?
I kind of see where they're coming from, but also, I think if you can get a job at 14, I think you should be able to, like, have...
I think they're also low-key kind of f***ed up by putting the age at 16. Because I feel like if they had done, like, 10 or something, there would be much less resistance to this. Or, like, 12. You know what I mean? But when you do 16, all of a sudden, like, these are people who are 2 years away from being seen as adults. These are people who are already like capable of getting a job, capable of driving a car. Obviously, they shouldn't be treated like adults and they shouldn't be seen as adults. But as far as like allowing them to, you know, operate on social media, I don't know.